Welcome, 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 and happy Thursday. It is noon Eastern time here in the booming metropolis just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a place I like to call Ambler, PA. Thursday, noon Eastern time, Ambler, PA, you know what that means. It is time for Talent Experience Live, your weekly look at all things talent acquisition, talent management, human resources, and of course, artificial intelligence. I am your host, Devin Foster, and Talent Experience Live is proudly brought to you by the good folks here at Phenom, whose purpose is to help 1 billion find the right work. Apologies, it's also Bring Your Kid to Work Day, and I am a little nervous. My daughter's in the back corner. We're not going to put the camera on her. Neither here nor there. Our purpose is to help 1 billion find the right work. That's why we have this podcast every single Thursday, why we also have a wonderful podcast with Cliff Yerkowitz called Unusual Attitudes. Check that out if you have not. Why we have the presence at every single HR Tech event under the sun. Why we hosted our user conference just a few short months ago in Philadelphia, known as I Am Phenom. It was lovely to see all of you there. And also why we hosted the HR Innovation Showcase yesterday. If you missed it, what were you doing? Hope you had a good excuse. But don't worry, you've come to the right place. Today we are going to dive into what you missed and why it matters through a number of different sessions. Some of my favorites that we picked out. You're going to hear from Kumar, Kara, and a couple others. But you may be asking yourself, circling back to before the topic, how do we help 1 billion? It's not through podcasts. It's not through the HR Tech Innovation Showcase. Of course, that's one way. But it's through the technology that is shown at events like that. It is through our applied artificial intelligence experience platform, which helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve in their current roles and beyond, recruiters achieve next level productivity and efficiency, and managers get to build better teams through data automation and analytics. So if any of that interests you at all, number one, watch the rest of the show, check out the HR Innovation Showcase, and then head on over to phenom.com, tell them Devin sent you, and feel free to request a demo to learn more. Now, what we are going to dive into today is pretty exciting. We are going to hear from, I mentioned Kumar, he's going to chat about WorkOps. We are going to hear from Kara, who is going to talk about voice intake, requisition, compliance, important stuff there. We're also going to hear from Jacqueline Riccardi about cognitive assessments and AI interviewer, as well as Naman Jain. He's going to talk about our AI bootcamps and how you can roll this out to your team successfully. So without any further hesitation, we're going to start things off with Kumar.
Hello everyone. Let's start this innovation keynote with one fundamental question that we all need to answer. Just because something can be automated, should it be automated? And that's the question that we're going to answer today. We've been talking to a large number of our customers who've seen great innovative products that bring in automation and productivity to their teams. But the one common challenge that everyone is facing is how to deploy this automation at scale and where to find the strategic edge in automation. There is a sweet spot between how much you can automate and how much humans can lead to achieve the perfect harmony to bring in the productivity and the quality that you're looking for. Let's take a look at this example, the Tesla factory that turned orange. So back in the day, during the Model 3 production of Tesla, somewhere between 2016 and 2018, Tesla sided towards automation. A lot of their factory floor was replaced by automated robots that could accelerate production of their Model 3 models. And during their ramp period, they were able to produce about 100,000 Model 3s every year. But during that time, the demand was pretty high and there was a need to further automate and scale. But what is very interesting is, although they removed a lot of human involvement in the production lifecycle, the production slowed down in certain scenarios. There were scenarios where hyper-automation broke down production lines that required scrambling people to fix those lines to bring production back up. And at the right time, Tesla made the decision to introduce humans in certain parts of these processes to eliminate sub-automated workflows completely to boost their production. And they were able to hit about 260,000 cars every year. This is an example where hyper automation can adversely impact your productivity and outcomes. So automating without context can result in a lot of mistakes and could have a domino effect on your business. Now, let's take a look at where that sweet spot could be for your business, for your enterprise, and how it can be intentional to bring the ROI that you're looking for. The way to approach this is to look at this concept called a hypercell. A hypercell is a combination of your industry, your function, the geography, and the role that you're trying to hire, retain, or grow for, and designing a workflow for that specific subsegment. A lot of you may already know some of those critical hypercells in your business. Maybe you're trying to hire a registered nurse in Dallas. That's usually a shortage market. Or you're trying to hire a forklift operator in Ohio where you could get moderate traffic, or a retail associate in New York City that could have high volume of candidates. These are some of the segments that you can easily identify and start to apply the right level of automation with intention to bring about those productivity aspects to your business. And oftentimes it requires you to decompose the work or your process, identifying where the inefficiencies are, bringing in technology that can help automate these processes at scale, and learning through these deployments so that you can fine-tune your processes over a period of time. Although this is great, this cannot operate at scale because this fundamentally depends on humans' knowledge and experience on what to automate and what's not. What is required is a system that can give you this intelligence at scale. To solve this problem, we built what are called as ontologies. Ontologies are a real-time representation of your enterprise. It connects all your data points into one massive unified network through which we can get answers in real time to help understand your business better and deploy the right levels of automation and intelligence to your processes. And we have codified both structured and unstructured data into our ontology. It can be your operational data giving you insights about your business, or it could be your strategy data that you've just launched for this year, or even specificities about your cultures that you can learn from and implement the right levels of automation to your processes. With this as the foundation, let's take a look at how these ontologies work. Now let's take a look at our ontology studio. Here's an example of one of a healthcare customer, and we can instantly see the ontology that's represented. You see this as a basic ontology. This looks like an ontology that represents the structure of the organization, and clicking into each expands into the key functions, the different site types that you may have, just like the structure of any company. What is interesting here is now we can take a look at the company from a different perspective. If you want to take a look at the revenue growth of the company, you can quickly take a look at which parts of the business are growing, which parts are emerging, and where is the revenue really coming from. And it gives us a very quick snapshot of how to look at organizations and roles within those organizations with a click of a button. Now let's jump into something more interesting. Let's take a look at the strategy. The company just launched their strategic plan as a part of their investor decks, and the ontology now has the ability to ingest some of these documents to start transforming them into actionable insights. So what you see is for this healthcare organization, there are certain strategic priorities that help accelerate their growth. I can click into each of those strategies and can quickly take a look at the key roles that are impacted by the strategy that can give you a quick guiding decision on what actions to take to further grow that population. I can even use our X Plus chat to ask specific questions from a strategic perspective. I can be a business leader who's looking at certain key strategies that have been just launched and looking at potentially direction on how to hire the right workforce better, to retain and upskill the right talent, and operationalize my business. Just by asking questions in natural language, the ontology is able to come back with answers about critical roles for specific initiatives, how these roles are evolving, how many people do we have in the organization, and what is the level of efficiency and automation you can bring in for hiring and retaining and growing each of these roles. So this is an example of a company's ontology that layers over different dimensions like revenue and strategic priorities all in one ontology. Now let's switch gears and take a look at one of our retail clients. And here's an example of an ontology which codes all the operational data about the enterprise. So here's an example of this client who has multiple store locations within a specific region. So as you can quickly see, there are various locations where the health of each location is pretty good, but there are certain locations that need attention. I can click into each of these locations that can instantly give me insights about that. You can quickly see, let's say, shift coverage patterns, how many employees work in this location, and traditionally, what are the top roles in this specific location, and even look at potential mobility paths between each of these locations. So now I can see if, for example, I have a shift shortage for one of the shifts in one of these locations, I can look at potential overlapping areas of talent and how I can really help cover shifts from probably neighboring stores who could potentially have people who could cover those shifts. This is an example of an operational ontology that not only contains your structure, but has every aspect of your day-to-day operation that can help guide decisions on your hiring, retention, and growth strategy. Now let's take a look at a third example. Here's a pharma company, and from their ontology, we've of course start with the basic structure, but now we can even have certain cultural signals. So for example, I can look at one specific strategic priority and ask specific culture questions about a unit or a key functional role that's there in the enterprise. Within minutes, the ontology is able to answer some of these questions by codifying some of the one-on-one meetings that's happening, probably public reviews of that specific role out there on the public web, any documents that you would have given to your new hire during their onboarding process that can all be encoded into the ontology that can give you a very unique perspective of what your culture looks like in the organization. So with your basic structure, your operational data, and your culture ontology is now codified in one aspect, this becomes the foundation for operationalizing your hypercell at scale. So now that you've seen the ontology in action, this ontology helps us uncover all the hypercells that are relevant for you that you can automate at scale. But one thing is very important. It's not just about building hard-coded automations to your business. There needs to be aspects of policies that you would define, specific roles that you would identify, certain outcomes that you would define, and optimize your workflows to meet those outcomes. And this becomes an AI control panel that's sitting on top of your hypercells, orchestrating all your processes at scale. Now, once you've identified these hypercells, what do you do next? You have to have a system that can help achieve deploying these processes at scale. And for this, we introduce Phenom's WorkOps platform. This will help you deploy and build modern automation systems at scale. So the architecture of this platform is a series of layers that sit on top of your system of record to bring in that deployment at scale. The first layer is our data engine. This is the engine that connects to your existing systems to bring data into a unified platform at scale. On top of that, your user experiences and behaviors are also ingested into this data engine to understand your user preferences, tastes, and communication styles. On top of all of this, we build the ontology layer that you just saw. And over the past couple of months, we've been not only advancing our AI platform, but we've been introducing new modern capabilities into this platform to support this intentful automation at scale. So think about AI agents, the eval frameworks that we had to build around it, the human in the lead and human in the loop capabilities that need to be built for the new agentic era. And all of this has been built in this layer. Once these agents are built, it's not just enough to deploy these agents in your workflow. There needs to be a mechanism to monitor how these agents perform and be able to record all the decisions of these agents and intervene for human in the loop feedback at the right moments. And this is the orchestration engine that's a part of the Phenom platform. And all the applications that you have today, whether it's the candidate experience, the recruiter experience, the manager experience, your talent marketer experience, your HRBP experience, or even onboarding, is all built on this modern tech stack that you need for your business. So with this modern foundation, let's take a look at the demo of how you can build all of these workflows at scale. Now let's go back to the Ontology Studio, the place where we represent the structure of the organization. Here's a healthcare customer, and we are going into one key functional area and a key role, the ICU charge nurse. Like before, with a click of a button, you're able to see every aspect of this ICU nurse within the organization. When I go into the process mining aspects of this specific role, the process intelligence tool quickly gives me a snapshot of your existing process and the levels of AI and automation that you've deployed on each of these business processes. As you can see here, the process here has some level of automation through interview scheduling and maybe some pre-screening, but the sourcing, the outreach, and the application process is all pretty manual. With a click of a button, I can see that the engine automatically segments your entire ICU nurse hiring population into 3 unique cohorts. And clicking into each of those cohorts shows me the possible ways in which you can deploy automations for each of those cohorts. So for example, if you're operating in a shortage market, you need automations to source candidates and pre-screen them, probably using an agentic platform, before you can put them in front of a recruiter even. But if you have decent volumes for the same role in a different location, you have the flexibility of adding new assessments or new screening processes in line that can help you further segment candidates before you put them in front of your hiring teams. But maybe you're dealing with early talent hiring that requires a completely different workflow. The WorkOps platform is able to recommend all of these different variations of flows that you can deploy to sub-segments of your population. So think of the orchestration engine as somebody who's overseeing your entire end-to-end process and flagging exceptions to the right audience at scale. So here, let me go into one of this workflow. So we already saw that, let's say an ICU nurse workflow starts with sourcing, converting them to an applicant, screening them, interviewing, and going through an offer. Going into one specific sub-process shows us the various agents that have been deployed through this process. But what is interesting is you can see that there are certain policies that govern how these processes and workflows are executed. The policies control the oversight, the decisions, and the human in the loop intervention when your automation engine is working at scale. Here's an example of a policy. The policies can be completely written in English language. You can specify what rules and restrictions or even decisions that you make across your business, all within one simple document. Each of these rules are converted into either a guardrail policy or a routing policy. The WorkOps platform also has decisions that the orchestration engine has taken that you can quickly review and also look at some of the human in the loop escalations that it has made. So you can quickly see that certain tasks are assigned to certain parts of your teams, or you're hiring team members to take that decision, and every action or decision that they take is logged into the system from a compliance perspective. Now, this is the modern platform that you need to deploy intentional automations against your hypercells at scale.
Thank you so much, Kumar. Really appreciate you taking the time, as always, to be a part of the HR Innovation Showcase and talk to the folks a little bit more about WorkOps and give them a really good overview and introduction there. Now we're going to throw things over to Kara Monistra, who is going to chat about voice intake and requisition compliance. Obviously, compliance is super important stuff when you're dealing with artificial intelligence. She's going to walk us through a little bit of when you may be on the go, when you may be on your commute home and somebody puts their 2 weeks in and you need to immediately find a new person. How to do that effectively with artificial intelligence, and also stay within the lines, right? Stay within the rules. So without any further hesitation, here is Kara.
Hi, so we've talked about the brain of the platform. Now let's see it in action at the speed of life. Let's continue with a healthcare use case, an ICU nurse position that's critical for the company growth strategy. And let's look at one hypercell, the talent shortage in Dallas market. We all get it. There's a general shortage of this role in the US. There's lots of competition in Dallas, so shortage is amplified. This means another patient waiting and another nurse stretched to the brink of burnout and care at risk. But what's the solution? Here, the orchestration engine for shortage markets in healthcare has been optimized around two imperatives: urgency and compliance. The moment the ICU nurse position in Dallas enters the system, it applies three policies. The clinical posting policy says every clinical role must be posted within 24 hours of rec approval. The compliance policy says any job posted for a licensed clinical role must include the required licensure disclosure and verification requirements. And the market urgency policy says skip second interview if the first round evaluation is higher than 4 out of 5 and the candidate has more than 5 years of experience. Now, a new ICU nurse position has just got approved on Friday afternoon. The moment the position hits the system, the orchestration engine goes to work. The rec needs to be posted by noon on Saturday. So let's meet Sarah, the hiring manager and lead ICU nurse. She's 12 hours into her shift, still moving between patients. She doesn't have time for another call, a form, or a meeting on her calendar. In the typical intake process, the recruiter would schedule a 30-minute call, 3 days out if everybody's lucky. But the orchestration engine has already made a different call and automatically deploys the voice intake agent. The intake agent has analyzed the last 50 intakes for this exact cardiac unit. The agent also understands the types of hires that Sarah has made in the past. Now, the agent needs to clarify just 3 things about the role, instead of a recruiter-led 30-minute intake meeting in person with Sarah. Sarah gets a text as she's walking to the parking lot. Your ICU role has been approved. Call anytime for a quick 5-minute intake. She taps the number and let's see what happens.
Hello, Sarah. Thanks for giving me a call. Do you have about a minute to confirm a few details for the new ICU role?
Of course, but just so you know, I'm driving home right now.
Perfect. I'll keep this quick. What shift are we trying to fill?
Well, I initially needed a daytime shift, but we had another person put their notice in. So the urgent need right now is for night shift.
Got it. Night shift. I'm seeing your last few hires for this unit required ventilator weaning experience. Is that still the critical skill?
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. I'll make sure ventilator weaning experience is listed as a requirement. When do you need them to start?
Well, I think as soon as possible would be perfect.
ASAP. Got it. Great. That's everything I need. I'm updating the role with night shift, ventilator weaning experience, starting ASAP. Drive safe, Sarah.
Thanks. The moment Sarah hangs up, the agent instantly parses the conversation. You heard it ask about the specialization, the shift type, and start date. It detects that this is a biometric access role in Texas, so it sends it straight to the compliance agent. By the time Mike, the recruiter, gets to review the approved rec, the intake is already done, summary sent to him, and the job description already analyzed. Mike opens the CRM to post the job. The compliance agent has flagged a bunch of issues with the original description. The job description is missing a disclosure for Texas. The role requires biometric access to the cardiac medication vault. You must include the Texas biometric privacy disclosure. It provides the exact text. Without this, Mike would have to call legal, wait 3 days, here, 3 seconds. Next, the agent enforces the company's own 2026 internal equity policy. Mike left the salary blank to negotiate later. To comply with the 2026 internal equity policy, please provide the salary range. Recommended for Dallas ICU with ECMO skills, $105,000 to $128,000 a year. The compliance agent isn't just a database of laws. The compliance agent is a living entity that monitors global, federal, and local regulations continuously. It understands that a nurse in London has different legal requirements than a nurse in Dallas. It also understands company-specific compliance requirements. Mike accepts, hits post. Before Sarah finishes her drive home, the job is live, compliant, and market optimized. That is the speed of trust.
Thank you so much, Kara. Super insightful session. Before we jump into our next one, I just want to let you know, these are only 4 sessions that we are highlighting from the Innovation Showcase. There were a plethora more, including a show-stopping introduction that you won't want to miss. But if you don't get the chance to check it out, here is Jacqueline Riccardi, who is going to talk about cognitive assessments and AI interviewer. Jacqueline, always the star of the show. She puts on one of the best presentations that we ever have. We're lucky to have her here. So without any further hesitation, here is Jackie.
Hiring for knowledge worker positions today, whether that's for a financial analyst or a systems architect, attracts quite a few candidates. Let's be honest, most of the time your team is drowning in applications for these positions. Outside of the sheer amount of volume that you're getting, there's now the added risk of synthetic talent. These are candidates that are using LLMs to ghostwrite experience on a resume or script live responses in an interview. This has become the norm in our AI-enhanced world. So Phenom has tuned the orchestration engine to address those issues, giving your recruiting teams a ranked, verified shortlist of candidates to move forward to the next stage. When a new role opens up for a financial analyst in New York, the orchestration engine applies the layered verification policy. It's a multi-step validation process that checks both experience and identity throughout the hiring journey. This is crucial for knowledge worker roles, ensuring that candidates are who they say they are and actually have the experience they say that they have. Today, these positions receive an influx of applications right as the job opens up. Rather than asking recruiters to manually check for synthetic candidates, the system does that work, scanning for profiles with identical skills and work history, but under different names and contact information. Next, it augments fit score. With these AI-infused applications, matching is just the baseline. It doesn't prove that these candidates have the experience required. So the workflow then deploys a short cognitive assessment. Phenom's newest acquisition of Be Applied offers a range of validated numerical and skill tests and adaptive assessment tailored to very specific profiles. Our candidate, Kara, is prompted to complete the assessment in real time, which allows the engine to see her ability to analyze, evaluate, and reason. Out of the original 2,000 candidates that applied to this job, only 160 demonstrate the required cognitive threshold. From volume to shortlist in one agentic automated step. Now that Kara has passed the assessment, it's time to see how she would react in a real-life scenario. And for that, we introduce the AI interviewer, a real-time reasoning agent trained on your company ontology. So your skills, your competencies, and your performance signals. The AI interviewer designs the interview around pre-approved questions to be a targeted capability stress test. Let's take a look. Ooh, bad angle of me.
Hi, Kara. Thanks for taking a few minutes to speak today. As part of our fintech transformation, we're exploring how leaders respond under limited data and high-pressure business conditions. I'll walk you through one short scenario and a few follow-up questions. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that definitely sounds like something I have time for today.
Our fintech platform sees a 15% drop in transaction volume in one segment. Revenue remains flat. You have incomplete data and 24 hours to advise leadership. What do you do first?
So I think first I would examine pricing changes, customer churn, and transaction fee increases.
Got it. Thank you. Assume pricing didn't change. Customer retention is stable. Marketing spend increased 20%. You cannot request more data for 24 hours. Now what?
So if marketing spend went up while volume dropped, we may be over-investing in low-converting channels. So I'd segment acquisition cohorts and evaluate CAC versus LTV by channel.
Thank you for your time today, Kara. The hiring team will review your responses and follow up with next steps soon. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too, Maggie. The AI interviewer tested Kara, digging deeper when the answer felt more generic, ensuring that her experience is her own. This capability has been deployed in a few markets since its launch last year, and the AI interviewer has already conducted over 10,000 interviews. Every candidate is assessed on the same job requirements. But just like in real life, the interview isn't generic. It isn't the same for every single candidate. It's engineered specifically for this team, this skill gap, this manager, and this candidate. It's not a static interview. This is structured, dynamic evaluation.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Always a pleasure to have you on anything that we do here at Phenom. You bring the energy, you bring the excitement. Now, we're going to wrap things up with Naman. He's going to talk about AI bootcamps and how you can successfully roll out some of these technologies in a few short weeks with Phenom and get your entire team up and running. Here's Naman.
AI is no longer something companies are exploring. It's something they are expected to deliver. Most of the customer teams I work with are not asking, should we use AI? They're asking, how do we actually make it work in our hiring process? And that's where things usually break. Today, I'll walk you through how we solve that at Phenom using our AI bootcamp approach. What we have seen is AI doesn't fail because of technology, it fails because of execution. Teams don't fully define the problem, recruiters and hiring managers are not aligned early, and there is no clear way to measure success. And I've seen this firsthand with customers where AI is implemented, but teams are still working the same way. So the technology exists, but the impact never shows up. And what happens? Low adoption, confusion on the ground, and leadership starts questioning the investment. The intent is right, but the structure is missing. At Phenom, we created a framework to solve this. Before we even start the bootcamp, we do a lot of analysis. We look at your hiring process, your data, your systems, and your past challenges. We analyze what's working, what's not, and where the biggest gaps are. Then we define what problem we are solving, what success looks like, and what's realistically achievable. This preparation is critical because the bootcamp is where analysis turns into execution. All of this sets us up to move fast, and that's exactly what the bootcamp is designed for. A bootcamp is not a strategy session. It's not just slides or discussions. It's a hands-on working session, usually over 2 to 3 days. Day 1, we lock in the focus. We confirm the problem, align the scope, and make sure everyone is working towards the same outcome. Day 2, we build configuration, testing, iteration in real time. By day 3, you're walking away with a working solution and a clear plan for what comes next, shaped around your workflows, policies, and constraints. And this is important because your team is part of the process the whole time. So it's not something built for them later, it's something they have already seen and trust. You don't just see ideas, you see something working in your own environment. And we align on timelines and next steps right there. This only works because it's grounded in your data. We analyze your hiring funnel across roles, locations, and stages to understand where time is being lost and where effort isn't converting. That's how we decide what to solve. We are not picking a use case randomly. We are focusing on the highest impact problem. By the end of the bootcamp, your team has already seen the solution in action in your own environment with your own scenarios. And that shifts the mindset. The question is no longer, will this work for us? It becomes, where else can we use this? And once you see that working, scaling becomes much easier. The bootcamp is designed as a starting point, not a one-time effort. You solve one high-impact problem first, you measure it, you prove the value. From there, you expand the same approach to more roles, more locations, and more use cases. AI success doesn't come from big transformations. It comes from solving the right problem, proving it works, and scaling it step by step. The AI bootcamp is how we make that happen.
Naman, Jackie, Kara, and Kumar, thank you all so much for being a part of the HR Innovation Showcase. Thank you to all of our other spectacular presenters. As I mentioned, there are at least 4 or 5 more sessions that you want to check out. It is available on demand now. You can watch it here on LinkedIn. You can check it out on YouTube, or you can obviously go to phenom.com, click the banner, and be able to dive a little bit deeper, get some assets along with that, and ask any questions that you may have. Thank you all so much again for another episode of Talent Experience Live. Today is draft day. Johnny Manziel, 5 years later, how are we the man still? Johnny Manziel might not be there, but enjoy draft day, enjoy the HR Innovation Showcase, and we can't wait to see you next week because we do this every damn Thursday. Thanks so much.